Now, when Cristiano Ronaldo left Juventus in 2022, Juventus had a big dilemma on their hands. And the dilemma was, who is going to be our future talisman? Who is going to be our future striker? Our future number 9. Somebody to spearhead our attack. And boy oh boy, the answer was Dusan Vlahovic from Fiorentina. Juventus went out and paid £66.6 million to secure his services. A Dusan Vlahovic that was scoring 21 league goals, playing for a Fiorentina team that finished 13th. What does that tell you? It tells you he's prolific, he's lethal, but he was a number 9 that knew how to put the ball into the back of the net on a consistent basis. This is also a Dusan Vlahovic that just last season put up 20 goal contributions in 27 starts. But where did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? Why is Dusan Vlahovic a talking point throughout this entire season? Because now Juventus have a different Dusan Vlahovic dilemma on their hands. Okay, now that the introduction is out of the window, let's talk some football. Dusan Vlahovic, where has it gone wrong this season? And I feel like the most notable memory of Dusan Vlahovic this year is him going to war with the Juventus fans, him and the Juve fans clashing after a game. And this is something that you just hate to see. It's never nice to see a player clash with his own fans and the fans to be abusing their number 9. Why? Because as a player, you represent the fans on the pitch, and the fans in the stadium, they're there to support you and stand by you. And there should be unity amongst the two camps. But when the two camps go to war, I feel like it rubs both parties up the wrong way. But Dusan Vlahovic, for me, he just looks like such a frustrated figure this season. He's a player that's been questioned. He's a player that's been doubted. He's a player that, as of now, is struggling to cement a spot in Thiago Motta's team. And on top of that, there is the whole question in the background of, does he really have a Juventus future? And if not, why? Now, as a number 9, you will always be scrutinised if you don't put the ball into the back of the net on a consistent basis. In everybody's eyes, you are the goal scorer. You're out there on the pitch to win us the game. And I feel like Dusan Vlahovic has shown throughout his career he can score goals. Like, this is a guy that's only 25 years old. But Dusan Vlahovic has shown, I can score worldies. I can score some of the best goals you'll probably ever see. But at the same time, I can miss clear-cut opportunities. But I feel like that's every number 9. That's every striker. You're never going to have the most complete 9, the most clinical of 9s. But for me, Dusan Vlahovic is a player that still has so much to offer in a Juventus shirt. But from looking at the numbers, I'm beginning to see where the frustration is coming from, where the lack of output is coming from. Let's just look at how many times Dusan Vlahovic strikes a ball on goal in a 90-minute game. Now, what I've done is compared his last 2 seasons at Fiorentina and his time at Juventus. Now, the one thing that stands out for me the most, this is the first time in Dusan Vlahovic's career where he's having the least amount of shots. All of his other campaigns, you could see he averages over 3 shots a game, even at times more than 4. What does that tell you? It tells you he's getting the ball in those dangerous areas where he's got the ability to have a strike on goal. If your striker isn't getting the ball in dangerous areas, 9 times out of 10, he probably wouldn't shoot. So I look at the system and I look at sometimes the players around him and their ability to get him the ball in the right space at the right time. Now, another thing that I want to focus on is how many times does Dusan Vlahovic even touch the ball in the opposition penalty box? Because for a number 9, the opposition penalty box is the most dangerous area. Dusan Vlahovic was signed for his movement, for his intuition, for his anticipation, for his ball striking, his finishing in the opposition box. So that's the area you need to get him the ball the most, but most importantly, on a consistent basis. Now, you can clearly see once again the amount of touches that he's having this season in the opposition box is very low in comparison to seasons in the past. Last season, Dusan Vlahovic was averaging 5.94 touches in the opposition penalty area, and there's a reason why he went on to get 20 goal contributions. So There was even a period at Fiorentina, 5.88. A Fiorentina team that season finished 13th. Once again, I look at the system, but I look at the players around him. This is a Juventus team this season which isn't as direct as in the past. This is a Juventus team that wants to play total football. They want to put their foot on the ball, retain, recycle, wait for the gaps to open up, and then pounce. But the problem is, they're not pouncing that much because their number 9 isn't getting the most service. And on top of that, if I was to compare Dusan Vlahovic last season in comparison to this season, you can see a big difference. Now this is 2023-2024. You can see Dusan Vlahovic is just a bit more involved. You can see the amount of times he receives the ball in attacking areas, his own attacking actions, the amount of aerial duels that he won. He looks like a player that's involved in doing his job as a number 9. But if I was to compare it to 2024-2025, Dusan Vlahovic is looking like a quarter of the player of last year. He's not as involved. He doesn't get the service that he requires. He looks like an isolated figure, and this chart proves it. And now if I was to compare the two, you guys can see it yourself. There is a drastic difference between last year and this year. Now, Dusan Vlahovic throughout his career has shown he can be inconsistent in front of goal. He can be inconsistent in his overall performances. And I feel like that applies to every player. Sometimes you see top strikers across the world, they go 3-4 games without scoring, without looking like their true selves. But in order for them to get out of that rut, they need goals, they need opportunities. Goals breed a number 9's confidence, just the same as clean sheets breed a goalkeeper's confidence. And with Dusan Vlahovic, I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. There have been games where the referee blows the whistle after 90 minutes and Dusan Vlahovic has had 1 shot on goal, sometimes 0. He is a striker that requires service, and he's shown, give me service and I will score you goals. Now, what's the second part of his game that's been heavily criticised this season, especially under Thiago Motta? Dusan Vlahovic's overall technical ability, Dusan Vlahovic's inability to drop deep and become a focal point, his inability to play with his back to goal. Now, Thiago Motta's football, total football, his approach, his ethos, his blueprint on the game, he wants his team to rely on overloads. He wants players to drop deep. He wants players to drift out wide. He always wants to have that numerical advantage all over the pitch in order to bounce the ball and progress it higher up the field. You require a number 9, just like how he utilised Joshua Zirkzee at Bologna. You require a number 9 to drop deep, play with his back to goal, bring his teammates in, hold up the ball in order to wait for the team to push higher up. You require a number 9 of those attributes. And Dusan Vlahovic, for me this season, I feel like he really has improved that part of his game. Now, has it reached an elite level? No, not yet. But this is when Antonio Conte comes to mind, and in particular, Romelu Lukaku. Now, Romelu Lukaku had this to say about Antonio Conte. During my first 3 months at Inter, Conte did nothing but train me with my back to goal. Why? He knew this was a weakness of Romelu Lukaku's game, but he also knew in his system, he required a number 9 that can play with his back to goal. Each training session, he would put Ranocchia behind me and ask him to go hard. Every single time I would lose the ball, the drill would restart. For me, this is top tier coaching. For me, this is a manager that walks into training and automatically spots his players' strengths and his players' weaknesses. And what he does, he plays to their strengths, but at the same time, he improves their weaknesses. This is hands-on coaching. And this, for me, is required at every club, at every level, in order to develop the players you currently have. I look at Dusan Vlahovic and I tell myself, he's a player, in my opinion, this season has improved a lot playing with his back to goal. And I don't feel like he hasn't reached the required level yet, but I feel like with a bit more training, with a bit more persistence, with a bit more hands-on coaching, he can reach the required level. But at the same time, to play with your back to goal, you need to make sure when you do receive the ball, you have got players in close proximity that you can give the ball to straight away. For me, Vlahovic, he looks like an isolated figure sometimes, where the ball would go long into him, and there's nobody within 20 yards around him. It makes the job more and more difficult. And finally, the most important reason as to why Dusan Vlahovic might leave Juventus in the summer. Let's talk some money. Let's talk some cash. Dusan Vlahovic is the highest paid player at Juventus by a surplus amount, let's just say. Dusan Vlahovic earns a decent amount of money, and I feel like Juventus are looking at him and telling themselves, he is an asset we can cash in on. He is an asset that it would help a lot financially to clear off our books, especially his wages. And on top of that, why not get rid of a player that doesn't suit Motta's system and philosophy and replace them with somebody that does? Now, in my personal opinion, I look at it and tell myself, sign the players that suit your system. I'm a firm advocate of that. But at the same time, the striker market is very weak. And Dusan Vlahovic, for me, at the age of 25, he still has so much to offer. He still has so much growth in him. For me, I've always been a fan. From ever since his Fiorentina days, he was a player that I saw a lot of promise in, a lot of potential. Fair enough, he can be inconsistent. Fair enough, you can question his mentality and his hunger for the game. But I feel like he's a player that still has so much more unlocking. And if you can unlock him, you can go on to have one of the best number 9s in the world, because he's shown. Dusan Vlahovic has shown I can score goals. I can score goals that many number 9s can't score. Fair enough, he also sometimes misses goals that other number 9s would score, but I feel like it's just a matter of confidence. For me, I feel like his confidence throughout the season is always up and down, up and down, up and down. As a number 9, you always need to be confident going into every game. And I feel like in a Juve shirt, he hasn't had the luxury of being confident every single week. But personally, I think Juventus cashing in on him. From the football standpoint, whether or not he fits Thiago Motta's system or not, I still feel like there's plenty of avenues to make it work. And even if it means doing what Antonio Conte done, where he saw Lukaku's weaknesses and he saw his strengths, and he knew, I need to play this guy in a 2-striker system. I feel like there's definitely a way to make it work. If it does come down to finances, then maybe trying to agree a contract where Juventus do lower his wages, because he does look like a player that wants to stay. He does look like a player that cares about Juventus. He's happy here. This is his home. But at the same time, if he doesn't get the reassurances that he's probably seeking at the moment, he would look to leave. And that is the Dusan Vlahovic dilemma. If you're new, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll catch you guys on another one.